Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. If you're like me, your mind tends to ask odd questions as you study history. Please don't judge. One of the following is, how did armies in the pre-modern world fire artillery at their opponents? I know you stay up in late night hours to think of this. As we've explored in other moments in history, gunpowder didn't really come about until the 15th century. So how did, say, the ancient Romans or Persians or the Medieval Crusaders bombard cities when they attacked? I'm glad you asked, because that's the topic of this episode, ancient artillery. Now, first we should define our terms. What is a catapult? Well, it's essentially a man-made war machine powered by leverage and gravity to hurl large objects at an enemy in order to cause massive damage, both to soldiers and to fortresses. Where crossbows and arrows would be fired at single targets, catapults were used to bombard massive sections of armies. Now, catapults originated in the ancient Near East, used by the Greeks in warfare, but our understanding of the catapult comes from the late Roman and early medieval European warfare, where catapults quickly became the chief bombardment weapon of medieval armies. There were various types of catapults, but their operation and function was almost identical. Now, throughout the Middle Ages, the technology developed as soldiers and knights began to learn different ways to fire heavier objects with greater speed and more efficiency. Now, the most efficient version of the catapult in the history of medieval warfare is the trebuchet. Fired with the same counterweight dynamics of the original catapult, the bullets, if you will, were in what was essentially a giant slingshot. When the trebuchet was released to fire the projectile, the slingshot mechanism caused the large stone to fly with maximum speed through the air and with maximum destruction. Now, soldiers were innovative in other ways as well. Before the age of gunpowder, knights were still able to use fire to their advantage. In the High Middle Ages, for example, it was flammable, oil-soaked balls that would not only damage their target with velocity, but also start a blaze upon connection. Of course, as we've seen in other moments in history, technology proved to be the death of medieval warfare as explosives began to replace traditional medieval war machines. The trebuchet was replaced by the cannon in the 15th and 16th centuries, and with it, the destruction of many medieval castles that could withstand a trebuchet blow, but could not hold after being struck by a cannonball whizzing through the air at top speed. Now, interestingly enough, one of the final appearances of the medieval catapult in warfare was actually at the siege of Tenochtitlan in 1521, where Hernan Cortés and the Spanish conquistadors obliterated the Aztec army in the Spanish takeover of the ancient Aztec Empire. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.